Aloha once again, friends and family. What is the hardest thing that a human ever has to admit? The most difficult thing that a human ever has to encounter. There's probably many, many of them, but the very hardest thing for the human to admit and acknowledge is that we were lied to about everything. Everything. And the reason that's so hard to admit is because if you were lied to about everything, and you obviously didn't know that, then to admit that is to admit that you don't know anything. And it's very difficult for humans, especially in this modern world, to be humble and admit they know nothing. It's just a crushing blow to the ego. It's a crushing blow to the facade that everybody puts on. It's a crushing blow to all the people that spent all that time and money getting quote unquote educated. But even the system of education itself is not really what we would call truly learning and educating, where you would learn by hands-on. You would actually engage a process, and then you would learn through experience. But instead, we're set in small desks in a hive mind group that's listening to one anointed person, like a preacher, standing at the front, telling everybody how it is and what they should know and what they should repeat. And if they can just remember all that for the test and do good on the test, they'll get a piece of paper that clarifies to everybody, this person is educated, this person is smart. But that person could have literally no experience. That person could still not realize how to control their own mind. Actually think for themselves. And actually question every single thing that's coming from this external matrix world and ask themselves, is this a narrative? Is this someone's story? Is someone trying to plant seeds in my mind which appeals to the ego? See, if they appeal to the human ego, they get cooperation, because once the ego feels like it's getting somewhere, or that it's becoming smart, or that it's getting ahead of their peers, why then that's called accomplishment. And if you add money to that equation, holy shit, you will lose people forever. They will never come back. That's why it says it's easier for the camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. And again, heaven is within. So the rich man's going to have a difficult time truly going within himself to discover who and what he really is and escape that prison system of the mind. And if the devil lives anywhere, he lives in the mind of man. So the planet, we could say the planet pretty much lost everybody. Everybody became lost on planet Earth. They became lost in their own minds. Or we could say they lost control of their own minds. And if you lose control of your mind, you're lost. And let us say you regain control of your mind, you still might be lost, because you're only going to not be lost when you've gained enough control over your mind to not entertain everything that the matrix throws at it to try to keep you in that lower density thinking, to where you actually can, let us say, split off from your mind, fully step into your spirit. And the more you root and ground and step into the spirit, the more you make that true, real connection with the Great Spirit. And that's where your education comes from. And as you go forth in life and have experiences and look at everything and evaluate everything through your spirit, then you become enlightened. Then you really know something. Then you're learning not based on fear, because you are allowed to make mistakes. And the fact that you can see and identify the mistakes allows you to make the corrections in real time. And therefore the mistakes are beneficial. They're not seen as something bad or something, you know, stupid. Anytime you learn something from making a mistake, are you not smarter? Are you not more intelligent after? But see, if you're lost in that prison system of your mind, which is all based in fear, you're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid, the ego's afraid to look stupid. So instead of readily admitting that it knows nothing, it keeps up this facade that it knows something. Mainly, again, because it cannot admit that it was lied to about everything. And they have a system in place. I think it's being dismantled personally, but that's my opinion, my belief. But if the system is not being dismantled, then everybody's still stuck in that matrix system where Everything anybody thinks that they know is coming from external sources, usually through a device of some kind, be it a TV or a phone or a book or anything, because they have control of all of it, or they had control. That's why you're not allowed to hear real truth. That's why you very rarely encounter real truth. Things of 5D. It's limited out there. They don't want you to get control of your mind. They don't want you to awaken. They don't want you to realize what this system has done to everybody on earth, which is enslavement. And see, my whole life, I intuitively knew from a young age that everybody here is enslaved. And back then I couldn't necessarily explain how I knew that, but I knew that. And see, I would tell people around me that, and of course they would deny it. Or they would say, oh, you're just being negative, or oh, you need to learn how to be positive minded, and this and that, which would be true if they themselves were enlightened and they themselves were not enslaved. But that would be like a fellow cellmate trying to convince you that no, we're not in prison, we're not in prison. But well, there's the bars. We have a little bitty room here that we're stuck in. And that would be physical imprisonment. Of course, you could still be free in a prison, mentally, spiritually. Again, with this enlightenment, with this adherence and discipline to the truth of who and what you actually are. But a fellow slave is never going to be able to convince another slave that they're free, because here we are both imprisoned, and you're trying to say that you're free and I'm free, but we're both here in this cage. So obviously it's not true. You can just look at the situation and see it. Here we are. Right? So the whole system of the Matrix is a fear-based system, and fear traps a person in their mind. And this applies to everything, from religion to so-called science to politics, history. I mean, I don't even want to, I don't even know that we even know what we're saying now when we say history, because again, we've been lied to about everything. So history is an idea of something that we think we understand. We might understand the definition of history, but do we really know history? How could we? We're in a system that continually lies. And it has all the players in place to perpetuate the lies. And if you stand against this system, it tries to rally the entire system against you. We have a current example of this happening out in the world right now. And see, people are still so asleep that they forget that it's fake news. They forget that this entire system is out there and ready to demonize anyone or any group that stands against this system, this tyrannical system. And they will show you fake videos to persuade you. They will show you pictures from 5 years ago and tell you this is a current picture you're seeing. They will threaten you and weaponize the monetary system against you to persuade you. And on the social media platforms, they will ban you and ostracize you and delete you if you say something other than what the mainstream narrative of the moment happens to be. And so if we really had control of our minds and we really weren't controlled by fear, we would be intelligent enough by now to know that whatever that system is saying, whatever all the talking heads are repeating, that the truth must be much closer to the opposite of whatever it is they're saying, whoever it is they're demonizing. The truth is probably closer to being the opposite of that. So I'm not going to go into details about it because I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to get into religion. I don't want to, at least today, I don't want to dive off into that stuff because it's murky, dirty water, and you can lose people really fast, again, because the mind is the biggest enemy of a man. And a mind detached from his spirit equals an NPC. Because if you have lost your connection to source, you're an NPC. You might be a well-meaning NPC. You might be a highly energetic NPC. But without that vital connection to the spirit and that inward, all the inward truths that come forward within you when you do this, when you have embraced this, when you truly can separate truth from lie, light from darkness within you, when you trust that great spirit within, when your faculty of discernment is working at 100%, when you can quickly let us say corral that mind that is like a bull in a china shop, and if it receives certain data, it's going to go bullish, and it's going to start tearing the hell out of the china shop, maybe not even meaning to. But if you're going to be a bull in a china shop, you're going to need to be real delicate and step lightly. But that mind quickly goes bullish, and all those delicate truths, all those crystalline truths, data points, begin crashing to the floor and breaking. And you're right where you have always been, a slave in the matrix. And that bull of the mind is afraid, so it's readily controlled because it's afraid. It may even just be that it's afraid to move in any direction because it's going to start breaking all of the delicate crystalline truths that are around it in this china shop. So it just hunkers down and figures, I will do nothing. I can't move. I shouldn't move. I'm afraid to move. I'm afraid to confront anything. And most importantly of all of it is that it's afraid to admit that it knows nothing until it's able to admit that it knows nothing, because it's in a matrix again where every single thing you were told, taught, indoctrinated with, the dogmas that you bought into, the systems that you paid for, the laws and the rules and the regulations and the mandates that you submitted to, all based on lies. And all of those lies are perpetuated through that controlling mechanism of fear. They said this will happen. I must do this because if I don't, they will do this. And the they could be any number of demons, right? It might be the devil himself. It might be a demon itself. It might be a demon couched in the form of an IRS agent. It might be a demon couched in the form of a law enforcer. It might be a demon couched in the expensive suit of a politician or a preacher. It might be a demon couched in the image of a scientist. It might be a demon couched in the unassuming form of a third grade teacher that's ready to indoctrinate a child in critical race theory and get it to hate itself, hate its race, hate its fellow mankind. Again, all based in fear. It might be a demon couched in the form of an astronaut. It might be a demon couched in the form of a terrorist who's actually part of a bigger group of demons called the CIA, to sell you a narrative of fear by that wonderful agency known as Clowns in America. And with that fear, they get your compliance. And with that compliance, they attack a fellow nation and destroy it and loot it and burn it. And then later, the truth comes out. Oh, we were wrong. But we got by with it. Because who's held accountable for the wrong? Who's held accountable for the death and destruction? Nobody. And because you willingly went along, you're not too concerned about justice anyway. Because you had become a believer. You joined the cult. Even if it was for temporary. And so we just suppress all of it because the ego cannot admit that it was lied to about everything. That you, and I'm not talking to the ego when I say you, because you maybe didn't learn anything, any truth. Because again, unless you were connected to the Spirit, which connects you to the source, which connects you to your true power, your true ability, your true gifting, your true, let us say, destiny as a human on this earth. Unless you were fully connected, then all of this escaped your consciousness. And you found yourself alone in a cold, dark world of lies where you have no power to change anything, to do anything, to admit anything. And this drives people to all kinds of ways of trying to escape, be it alcohol, be it drugs, be it sex, be it any number of things. It is an attempt to escape this knowledge. And again, fear. It's based in fear. Admitting that you know nothing is the first and greatest step toward enlightenment, toward actually discovering the truth. Because it is discovering who you yourself in fact are. And that truth leads you to every other truth from within. And you actually come to find out you have pretty much unlimited power. You come to find out you actually have the power to create your reality. And that anything becomes possible to you if you will believe that. But see, to believe that, you would have first had to have made these admissions, come to these conclusions, put the mind on the examining block, which becomes the chopping block. Because all of those programs that were based on lies and fears need to be chopped away from your mind so that your mind becomes free. And with that freed mind and that infinite, vast, open spirit, you truly do believe that you can do anything that you set the mind to. But we're talking about a free mind, not an imprisoned mind, not an egoic mind that is still afraid to admit that it doesn't know anything. The Great Awakening is happening. The Earth herself has moved into 5D frequency. Third density, as I've been saying now for 4 or 5 years, is dissipating, is crumbling, is going away. And all those systems that I've been talking about here, of lies, of fear, are going away with it. And everybody that cannot detach from it, cannot admit, cannot come to and find the truth, will go away with it. And it's completely our choice. But how can people make the choice if they don't even know about any of this? And anybody that would tell them about it is silenced or blocked or shadow banned or kicked off the platform because they're not repeating the programming that is out there in the masses, the mass media, and all of the NPCs that just repeat what the mass media says, still under the mind control programming of, if everybody out there saying it, it must be true, when it is the opposite. Whatever that hive mind out there is saying, the truth is closer to being the opposite of whatever it is they're saying. And see, unless you've learned to trust yourself, unless your intuition is working, you're not going to be able to withstand that kind of pressure, to stand against the masses and the narrative of the masses. You're not going to have the strength to do it. You're not going to have the self-confidence to do it. You're not going to have the knowing to do it. You're not going to know that you're right to do that, because seemingly everyone and everything says no, that's wrong. You must believe what we're telling you to believe. You must believe these images that we're showing you. Even when you find out the images are from 5 years ago, but they're telling you, no, this is a current image. Just finding that out by itself should let everybody know, hey, these people are lying. And if they lied about this, then they lied about that. And if they're liars, they're not trustworthy. So if they ever lied one time to you knowingly, then why in the hell would you ever trust them again? Because you're a slave of your mind. But you can't admit that. And so you stay enslaved. You stay spinning around. It goes from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. And if the hive mind is going along with it, are you going along with it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to believe it? Are you going to participate in that system of fear and control? After all you have been through, after all that you have seen, after all that you have learned, after you were divinely led to the people in your lives that were not part of the system, that weren't enslaved by the system, and was able to deliver a message to you that was contrary to everything you were being pressured to believe. And somehow the truth still found its way to you. Is that an accident? Is it merely random? Or is there some unseen divine force that is supplying what it is you asked for? Because does it not say that God knows the heart of a man? So if God knows, the creator, source, knows your heart, then your heart wants all of the truth. It wants the light. It wants to know what is real in this crazy world of illusion. And God has found a way to get you simple messages of encouragement, simple messages to say, hey, you're not alone in that. You're not crazy for thinking that. It's not a conspiracy theory that there is a conspiracy out there. And that there is a path and a way to love, unity, and light in this world, in your world. And that you primarily are the co-creator of it. But getting you to believe that is the most difficult thing imaginable. Because the mind is filled with programming and doubt about that. It's a very simple animal in many ways. And in its simplicity, it says, well, just prove that to me, and then I'll believe it. Then I'll know it. But that simple animal does not realize that you don't prove something like that to the mind externally. It has to be proven through the process. And again, the process is from within to without, not from without to within. And so many people are blocked just right there because they won't adhere to how it works. Like if you want something to work, you have to work with how it works. It comes through you, not to you. If you're looking for God to save you by coming to you, you'll be waiting forever. But if you can understand that God will save you by coming through you, you're saved in that instant. In this overly complicated, multi-layered matrix world, the simplicity of this simple truth is not believable, is not acceptable, because the mind is an overly complex animal. If you don't like animal, overly complex mechanism, overly complex receiver. And it's in overload. There's way too many signals reaching your mind. Way too many. And the result of it is confusion, fear, and ignorance. So you must become the master of self. You must limit your receiver's capacity to receive. You must consciously filter and clean up your mind. Clean up your mind. And when your mind becomes clean and you have taken it to the chopping block, you will get clarity. You will find simplicity. And you will move the primary part of your consciousness from your mind to your spirit, or from your mind to your heart, which is that vital connection to your spirit and the streaming love, unity, and light coming from source that empowers you to co-create your reality, regardless of what this insanity around us might be or not be. Because your primary focus becomes your reality and what you are creating. I think I'll leave it at there for this one. Love, unity, and light. My beautiful friends and family. Until next time.